Friends, I want to tell you about the Anchor podcasting app. It's what I use. It's so easy. And the best part, it's free. Yeah. And it posts and distributes your podcast for you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many others. I love it, especially because I can record and edit from my laptop, but from my phone too. So handy. Download the free Anchor app now or go to anchor.fm to get started. Happy casting.
Hello. Cuss and discuss. Cuss and It's Katie.
Woo-hoo! Yes. That's right. It's Katie, and it is Cuss and Discuss. And that right there is my new intro, guys. I had a good friend of mine, Marshall Heath, who is in the band mentioned in the previous episode and did the intro for the previous episode called Wooden Cars. And he created that little ditty for me, guys. What you think? I love it. It's awesome. And just so you guys know, there's no rhyme or reason to this podcast yet. I'm still learning, still getting feedback from people, a lot of constructive criticism, if you will. Some constructive criticism for my podcasting. But I don't have a good format yet. I am very aware of that. I'm trying to figure out the best day to put this out. I'm thinking a 30 to 40 minute podcast. The time isn't figured out yet. And the music, the intro, the platform, it's all just kind of up in the air. And I'm just kind of learning and figuring out what works best and what makes the most sense. So I hope you guys are understanding with my issues and my ADD or my, I don't know, guys. I'm just trying to figure things out. So, how are you guys? How's it going? It's Monday. This is episode 7. And please follow me on all my many locations. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, Anchor podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all at Cuss and Discuss Pod. Or you can email me at cussanddiscusspod@gmail. Now that that's out of the way, now that all the formalities, what's going on, y'all? How was your weekend? How did Monday go for you? I had a good weekend. Got to see some friends again, see my girlfriend that was in town. Sunday was a day of just playing with my daughter and all of my friends and their kids and getting to see them run around and interact with each other. That was all good times. So it wrapped up the weekend, if you will. So now we're on the new Monday grind. I have a bit of the sniffles. I guess got some sort of allergies going on because the weather is so fucked here in Missouri. It's like 30 degrees at night and then 60 or 70 during the day. It's really neat. But this week's topics, I have a couple that kind of range. But the majority that I've heard from people that they want to talk about is anxiety. And I was all for this because I feel like it's something that's being discussed more and more. I don't really remember hearing or talking about it in my younger days, maybe because I didn't have any anxiety, because I didn't have bills and stress and worry and the terror of, am I going to make another payment for X, or am I going to afford whatever? And now having a kid with that just really amplifies the anxiety and the stress and the worry. Um, but I started really getting anxiety around my probably late 20s into my 30s. And I didn't know what the hell was going on because I never experienced it. And it slowly just started inching and creeping into my life like a fog on a late morning fall day. Um, but yeah, I would start to have like really big panic when I had to talk in front of people at work for a meeting, or even got it like just having to go visit family or see friends. And that's when I knew that it was bad. I'm like, I've never been a person that was nervous, anxious, um, embarrassed, or even cared what people thought or why, what I was talking about. Like I was just always, maybe not the life of the party, but the one that could keep the conversation going or start it, especially my family. I'm the oldest on my mom's side and the second oldest on my dad's side, for as far as grandkids or cousins go. So I was used to being that go-to kid and person to entertain. Basically, I would sing at family functions and get silly, and so as I got older, it started to dissipate, and I'm like, who am I? Like, I don't even want to like go around friends and family. Like that's not right. Um, so at, I want to say 30, 31, I started taking some anti-anxiety medication, and it definitely helped. I was on like the lowest, like 10 milligram dosage. And it was more just like I was taking it as I felt I needed to, which obviously probably isn't the right way to take it, because I'm pretty sure that most medications you need to take every single day unless stated otherwise. And usually, I want to say, from what I've learned in my life, that most medications that you are supposed to take on a daily basis should kick in after being on them for 30 days. That's just kind of how it is, I think. So I didn't take it as often as I probably should have, and then I stopped taking it altogether. And then once I got pregnant, I was all good. I wasn't on anything. I was barely even taking ibuprofen. I was just terrified. I didn't want to do anything to harm the baby. I was just very cautious with everything I ingested, and how I took care of my body. And I still feel like I am that way. I don't want to be reliant on any medications or pills. So once I had the baby, and the those feelings of anxiety started cropping back up, they were tenfold. They were so much more intense, so much more terrifying, because now I have this little life that's in my hands that I created and that I'm supposed to take care of. And you can read books and you can do what you got to do, talk to people, but there's nothing compared to learning as you go. That's kind of how I am. I'm learned by fire. Like, throw me in there and I'll figure it out. I'm a very problematic, problem solving kind of person. So once, though, the anxiety was to the point where I again wasn't feeling comfortable even talking to people. Like, I would be so in my head, like, oh my God, you're going to start like stuttering, or you're going to, like, just the most ridiculous things. And not to mention, in the past few months, I was having little anxiety attacks. Like, again, in my head, nobody would have ever known, but like I was having meltdowns internally, and it was terrifying. Um, so I finally went and spoke to my doctor, got on some medication, and it was very, very helpful. But I quickly learned after like a month or two, it was just still, I could feel it underlining still. So she bumped it up another, I think, 10 milligrams, and now I feel fairly normal. I still get a little tinge of anxiety about things, but I just really try to push that out of my mind because it's not the kind of person I am. And it's just very frustrating because I think so much of it has to do. And let me preface, I am not a doctor, I'm not a physician. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. And also, I've done no research on it. I just, from what I think, from my personal experience, for me, when I notice the succession of my attacks or anxiety is almost always attributed to lack of sleep. Regardless if it's just from not sleeping well or I didn't go to sleep at all because the baby was up or whatever, I can wake up the next day and know automatically that it's going to be one of those wonky days because I don't feel myself. I'm very uncomfortable in my own body. And so I'm thankful that I have that medication there to suppress that, I guess, if you will. But it sucks because then you have the stress and the worry on top of that lack of sleep. And then again, you start to get all in your head, start to think, okay, well, what if I start to freak out when I'm working or talking to somebody or whatever? And it's terrifying. Like, again, and I don't hear many people talk about it. I talk about it with my close friends and family, but you just don't hear many people bring it up. I think it's just a form of like a symptom of weakness. And I can definitely see that. Especially like in men, I don't know how men handle mental health, because you don't hear a lot of men ever talking about even their own health or taking care of themselves. So it makes me wonder, like, how much are they admitting to their issues and facing those issues, and are they fixing those issues? Women are very, emotional, and they can come out and say how they feel and what they feel and why they're feeling it, and it's not the same for guys. So I just want to put a call out there to all you men. All you men, why don't you write me in and say, are you handling things like, are you even experiencing these kinds of situations where you're all in your head, stressing out, having anxiety or panic attacks? And if you are, what do you do about them? How do you handle them? Are you taking medications? Are you talking to a doctor? Are you talking to um, not a therapist? Well, some people talk to therapists, but I have been to a psychologist. So, because I think for men, it's probably even worse because, like I said, it's thought of as a sign of weakness. And I don't know many men that go to the doctor often, if not hardly at all. So it makes me wonder, like, are they just living with these horrific feelings and symptoms like I get or any other person probably has? Because, guys carry things just as heavy as we do, I think in different ways. But I would think that would cause so much more stress and pent up aggression, just having to carry these burdens and these feelings and not get those off your chest or out into the universe, just speaking about them. Like, I feel like that's at least step one. And then, go from there. I just can't imagine. I mean, I can. I've held many, many things in, past, regrets and even current regrets. I mean, everybody says, I have no regrets. Oh, boo boo. I have so many regrets. If I could go back in time and change certain things, I fucking would. I don't have any, I don't, I know everybody says, well, I got you where you are today and you have Ruby. And that's very true. But some of the things that I've gone through or anybody else has gone through, it makes you wonder where your life would have led you had you not made those choices or done those things or been in those situations that you could have not done. But yeah, one of the topics that I don't know why I'm seeing this so often lately. I don't know if it's just there's a new meme going around or if there's a couple articles that I've just missed, but I try not to read the news. I definitely try to stay off Facebook because it's depressing. Um, I've somehow maneuvered my Facebook algorithm by deleting people and blocking pages or unliking things, and it seems to be happy and kitties and doggies and funny memes right now. So I'm avoiding all the serious life issues, but like I was saying, the thing that's going around right now is people all up in arms about, and I'm not saying that in a way that they shouldn't be up in arms, but people up in arms about parents accidentally leaving their kids in the car, which is a fucked up. Like, it's horrible, 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 horrible. But to touch on the anxiety thing, worry, stress, whatever, this, excuse me, this is one of my biggest fears. And some of you may be like, what the fuck? Why is that a fear? How do you forget your kid? And it's not that I forget my kid. Trust me. I have my child on my brain over 1,000% of the day. But pre-baby or pre-kid, I remember seeing these articles and being like, fuck that bitch, fuck that terrible parent. How could you do that? You don't forget a baby. You don't forget anything like that. That's just crazy. That's just, they did that on purpose or they were on drugs or whatever. But now that I have a child, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how that can happen. Can happen. I'm not saying that it should I'm saying that what they did is forgivable or even understandable. Well, I guess it is kind of understandable in a way. But when I think about it, it's like, yeah, I am so exhausted almost all the time. And I'm not saying like I forget my kids back there, but I'm constantly looking around. Where's my kid? What's she doing? And, what could she get into? That kind of thing. So I can definitely understand just from being purely exhausted. Like on a day that, let's say, because not every day I drive my daughter to the daycare. She sometimes goes with her dad, or sometimes I pick up, and sometimes, it's not the same every day. So like, if there's a day where I'm taking her in to the sitter, I look back in the back seat like 100 times because you go through life. Sometimes it just kind of the same repetitive shit every single day. And I am just terrified that I am going to forget her because then you're like, oh my God, well, I'm doing something different today and I'm really tired and I left the house in a rush and I got to drop her off. Then I got to go to get gas. Then I got to go to work. And it's just like, you can understand why this could somehow get jacked up. So I'm constantly, even when I know I didn't drop her off, I'm just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's so crazy, the anxiety that you live with as a parent. And apparently it gets better as they get older, or if, you have other kids, but it's just like, I don't know. For myself, I'm very unsure of that feeling. I feel like that's just with you your whole life. Like, it's terrifying. Oy, God, what a horrible thing to have to go through as a parent, though. If you were just so tired and got like an hour and a half of sleep the night before because your kid was sick and you were late to work and you just, I could not even imagine. I don't think I would even live with myself after such an event. I don't know what I would think about it. Any hoodles, let's move on. So I had a couple people asking about some of my favorite podcasts because they know that I'm very podcasty. That's what I like to call myself. No, they just know that I enjoy podcasts and I listen to quite a lot. It kind of depends on my mood. Majority of the podcasts that I listen to are funny, like I'm trying to get through the workday or get through traffic. So I try to keep it light. But a few of them are very juvenile. And when I say that, I mean, it's just like this one. So if you like this one and you like annoying, childish behavior coming from adults, then you need to follow a couple of these podcasts. My absolute favorite, who from day one I was hooked because, like I said, they were juvenile. They're talking about poop and pee and farts, and they play all sorts of ridiculous clips, and they touch on topics that are taboo or, that somebody's going to fucking blog about and get pissed about. But Your Mom's House podcast is probably my number one fave. And they've veered off and done some of their own like side podcasts, if you will. So another good one is Two Bears, One Cave. And all these are comedians, by the way. So Your Mom's House is a husband-wife comedian. The husband is Tom Segura. The wife is Christina Pajitsky. And then on Two Bears, One Cave, it's Tom Segura and his best friend, Bert Kreischer, or Bernd Kreischer, if you will, on Two Bears, One Cave. And then Dr. Drew After Dark, which if you ever listen to Dr. Drew, this is great because he talks to comedians and gets their background and their past as to why they're so fucked up and why they're the crazy comedians that they are. Of course, Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. He's also a comedian. He sits there and talks to himself and rants and fucking screams and bitches, and it's great. The Fighter and the Kid, that is also two comedians, Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen. And those two just have a good rapport. They go back and forth all the time. Whiskey Ginger is another famous, or I'm sorry, he's famous, yeah, but favorite comedian of mine, Andrew Santino. And then King and the Sting is Brendan Schaub and Theo Vaughn, which are fucking hilarious because they go back and forth at each other and talk shit. And then, of course, how could one forget Chris D'Elia's podcast, Congratulations. Oh, my fuck. He is so obnoxious and so silly. I just love it. Probably number 2 against Your Mom's. Actually, it might be vying for number 1. He's getting up there. Tiger Belly is a good one. That is with Bobby Lee. And then, of course, Joe Rogan Experience. Not always like hilarious, but he has some really fucking good co-hosts on. And if you're in for like a long listen, tune into him. He's very knowledgeable. Like at first I was like, ugh, I don't know, Joe Rogan. He was on Fear Factor, and he's a meathead and blah blah blah. But he's actually really really fucking smart, and he talks about solid topics. And some of them are really deep, or some of them are funny, or some of them are just wacky. So, and then if you're looking for something a little more light, well, maybe not light, but My Favorite Murder, it's two gals, Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark, who I believe are like in the comedian world. I don't know if they're comedians, but they're funny, and they talk about murder stories and kind of make them a little more lighthearted, but they tell you like facts and details that you never would have known about a lot of murders. The Vanished is what it is, about people that have literally vanished off the face of the planet. It's just very interesting and also kind of sad. Mysterious Universe, that's a little more up my wacky zone. It gets into aliens, ghosts and hauntings and that kind of thing. It's a little more lighthearted. And then Spooked is one of my favorite podcasts as far as storytelling goes. It's just about creepy stories that are supposedly true. And the storytellers that tell them are just very, very good at it. But the downside of that podcast is it's only out during the fall, like October, November. So there you go. I have a lot. I'm sorry. So if you have any more questions on that, just write in or send me messages, and I'd be happy to share because I love podcasts, and I have many that I listen to. So I'm also going to be talking about for the month of November and December. Well, maybe not the whole month, but throughout, I'm going to go over a couple topics that were mentioned. Family and holiday traditions, which I loved this topic when it was brought up to me because I'm so big. My family is so huge on holiday traditions and family traditions. So I thought that was a really fun one to go over because we've got a lot of traditions and they just keep kind of building as the family gets bigger and bigger. For instance, I don't know if I brought it up last week, but we went to the pumpkin patch on Sunday and we do the pumpkin patch and then we go to my mom and dad's and have spaghetti dinner. My dad makes phenomenal spaghetti. And we just sit around and hang out and it's really fun. But that's our second year doing it. And I think it's just going to become a tradition. Like it just kind of builds like that. So let me know what your holiday traditions are, or if you don't have a tradition, what you like to do to avoid family or avoid even seeing the public, because I don't know about y'all, but I do not participate in Black Friday. I hate crowds. I don't really care for seeing that many people in one place, especially when it comes to a holiday and people are angry and fighting over things. I think that's absolutely fucking asinine. And it probably doesn't help that I cannot stand shopping in the first place. If I have to go, I know what I'm getting. I beeline it for what I'm going to get, and then I get the fuck out of there because I can't stand people. They're rude in the stores. Usually the customer service is nil. There's nobody there that's very friendly. And then you got to stand in fucking lines, and then you deal with more customer service that sucks. I cannot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week, guys. I feel like that was really fast, and I feel like that was short and sweet, but I was going to go over some pop culture. I was going to try to like be fancy and talk about what's in today's pop life. But when I went and looked through the pop culture section, I could not find anything that was worthy of talking about. Granted, I did find one thing that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it was that Clueless is going to have a reboot for television. So I'm like, I don't know how good that's going to be. But I did love Clueless as a kid, even though I was really not a girly girl. I just loved the whole bullshit storyline. I don't know. You know, it's silly. The outfits are fun. And it just made you feel cool when you watched it. You know what I'm saying? So guys, thanks for listening in. Thanks for all your feedback. I appreciate when you guys come up and talk to me and tell me that you listen. It really blows my mind that you guys are listening and that you guys enjoy it and that you're taking me seriously, because this is the first time anyone's taken me seriously in my 35 years of life. Again, thank you to Marshall Heath for the new intro. I fucking love it. Follow me, Cuss and Discuss Pod on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, everywhere. I'll be there. I'll be watching you. I'll be waiting. And write in cussandiscusspod@gmail for any topics or whatever. Just fucking do it, you fart faces. Okay, I love you guys. Thanks. Bye. Oh, wait. Time out. Time. This Friday, the 25th, I will be doing a Halloween episode with my girl Jess. She'll be back on. And we're going to do some spooky stories, personal haunted stories or ghost stories, and maybe find a couple that we think are pretty creepy. So listen in. We'll have it probably come out Friday night or Saturday. And let us know what you think. And I can't wait to hear more feedback from you guys. I appreciate it. I love you. Bye. Happy Monday.